Next on The Professional Rule Breaker.
Ms. Fabienne Fredrickson from Boldheart.com, and I love listening to the Professional Rule Breaker show because I am an entrepreneur and I am a born rebel, and you should too.
Welcome back to the Professional Rule Breaker Show. I am your host, Kathy Walterhouse. And at the Professional Rule Breaker, we are here to help you succeed. And that is one of the reasons I bring these amazing guests to you. And today is going to be a really big treat because my next guest is the founder of the Leverage Business Program, and she has reverse engineered how she scaled her business to several $1 million annually while remaining feminine. Her book is also called The Leverage Business: How You Can Go From Overwhelmed at 6 Figures to 7 Figures. And who, first off, doesn't want to go to 7 figures? And it is a roadmap to show women, and I'm sure men as well, how to increase their income and impact with heart. So please welcome my next guest, Fabienne Fredrickson.
I'm so delighted to be here with you, and thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Oh, I've been very excited to have you on my show. So one of the things that I started with at the introduction, at the top of the introduction, is that you said remaining feminine, powerfully feminine. Yeah. So let's talk about that, because sometimes, especially for women in the business world, we are taught to kind of stifle that. So let's talk about that, how that can be used to your advantage. And this, I would say the same thing for men as well. They have both feminine and masculine energy.
What I've noticed over all this time is that any of the things when I first started opening my business, learning about marketing, learning about sales, learning about treating your team and your clients a certain way, it was a really masculine. And I used to look at this and say, I don't want to do business in that masculine of a way. It doesn't feel right. So I wouldn't do the marketing, or I wouldn't do the sales in that way, which meant that I didn't take much action. And I love the masculine. I have a great husband. I'm raising some great boys. And I realized that I'm not that. So what I've discovered for myself and been teaching other people, female or male, is to really be the highest expression of who you really are in your marketing, your sales, with your clients, and your offerings, with your team. And that the more honest and vulnerable and a direct correlation of the real you, the more you will attract clients. So for me, I'm a feminine woman. It doesn't mean girly or pink or ruffles necessarily, but I'm deeply loving and deeply inclusive and encouraging and vulnerable and authentic and all of that. And the more that in all aspects of my business, the more I have attracted clients. And what I have found, just to wrap this question up, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, is that I've met so many women who they get to 6 figures, multiple 6 figures, even 7 figures, the masculine way, because that's what we've been taught is acceptable. And at that point, often they'll come to me when I step off stage, or if I meet them somewhere, and they'll say, I'm doing well in my business, but I'm exhausted. I don't have a life anymore. I say too many times, one more email and mommy will be right there. I'm just going to close down my business. And I'll say, wait, what? You're at multiple 6 figures. People dream about this. And she'll often say, I'm working against my nature. It's just not worth it. And I usually say, just give me 1 year. Just give me 1 year. And this allowing yourself this permission to do business in a way that feels authentic, and for many people, it's more feminine, changes the game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think back to my time in corporate. I worked for some small companies, but I did also work for some very large companies and was able to be extremely successful in those. But what I found was it was exhausting, because when I was more corporate facing, it was the masculine energy.
For sure.
100% of the time. But when I was with my clients, and this is where I excelled, it was both the masculine and the feminine side together. And it was so interesting when I was doing my research. I always do research before I interview anyone. And I was so excited after doing research on you that I thought, oh my gosh, that's the secret, because that is how I was able to become so successful, because I was
Yes.
able to combine both of those. And I was never exhausted or stressed when I was with my customers, and I adored them and they adored me. Even the ones that everybody was afraid to go see, I always seem to have gotten those. They're like, people would be so afraid to go in there, and they were pussycats. If you really figured out who they were and were really authentic with them. But it's so interesting because I think about times even in my business that I do now, I have a newer logo. It has a butterfly. So I've gotten criticized that the butterfly is too feminine. And I'm like, but that's who I am. But yet this butterfly has a wing that's a completely different color. The other wings are the same. And that's the rule breaker part of it, the one that thinks outside the box. Same thing. The professional rule breaker, the name itself, I was criticized. Some people really loved it, some people didn't. But it was, again, criticized because they were like, you're going to be breaking rules. You have this energy that's attached to that. And I'm like, no, you just don't understand what it's all about. But I think we have to always be authentically ourselves and be able to combine whatever that energy is, and try to, if you are listening and you're working in a big corporation or whatever it is, and you have that issue, I guess my question is, for those folks, do you have any solutions for them? Because that's where I was years ago, where it was a bit of a struggle. I think that's the reason I left, quite frankly, is that it was just too hard.
I would say it's probably the reason I left too, is that I wasn't myself. It was unacceptable to be me. I am loving, like I said. I am authentic. People say they choose to spend time with me because they always say, you're so vulnerable, authentic, you're the real deal, you're generous, and all of that. And that was not celebrated when I worked in a corporation. I'm spiritual, I'm funny, I hope I'm funny. I'm really effusive, inclusive, all of that. And none of those were even close to the traits that were celebrated. And I honestly, I left corporate because for me only, I'm not suggesting this is true for anybody else, I was experiencing a slow death. And I knew that I couldn't, for my mental health, for my sanity, for my joy and bliss in my life, I couldn't keep going in a place where I was not allowed to be myself. So do I have any advice for lovely people who are in corporate? If I gave advice, it would be not authentic, just
Right. It would
because
be,
I've never, yeah, I always say I don't coach on things I haven't done or I'm not doing now.
I
And
love that.
so for me, I would, my only advice would be like,
To
come
be
on,
authentic.
let's get self-employed.
That's
But
right.
I know I can't
Exactly.
do that.
Again, I think that was one of the reasons I did what I did as well too.
Yeah.
I would push back sometimes because there were times that, I'll give you an example. It was when my oldest son was young. It was his very first basketball game. And I literally was on the phone with the CEO of the company. And I was like, I have to go. This was a new CEO. I was like, I have to go. This is my son's first basketball game. That was the biggest deal. And then right then and there, I said, the proof is in the pudding. Look at the numbers. I'm always number one, number two.
Yeah.
Okay. And having that pushback. But let's talk about, because there's something that I saw that you do speak quite a bit about. And I also think high achievers struggle with this. There's all sorts of studies showing that high achievers struggle with, I would say the name like imposter syndrome, but there's a problem with the mindset of the self-doubt or procrastination. What's your advice for that?
It's funny because I've actually done an episode recently of my podcast about imposter syndrome being actually a sign that you're on the right track. if there's anybody here who wants to hear
I
a
love
full
that. I have not
45
heard
minute.
that before, so I love that.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Yeah, so it's called, my podcast is called The Fabienne Show. Very original, but it allows me to talk about lots of different things, many aspects of a woman's life. Imposter syndrome shows up when we feel that we don't deserve something, that we haven't sacrificed enough for it. My way to approach imposter syndrome is the fear that you're feeling, or this anxiety around, do I deserve that? Am I good enough? This can't really be for me, is simply a mindset where that hasn't yet expanded to believe that you are worthy of more. So I hear this a lot, and maybe you do too, Kathy, where sometimes there's a client who, let's say she has her $100,000 launch. She launches something, whether it's a new program, an event, and in a weekend, she'll make $100,000. And I see this has happened a lot in my practice. She'll start to tremble or be anxious and feel like, oh, this was just a fluke. Or when she gets to her first time at 7 figures, there's a lot of stress around it because she doesn't actually feel that she deserves it. So she's worried that she won't be able to repeat it, and that creates a lot of stress. It points to the fact that there are some mindset shifts, some self-image shifts, some beliefs, deep-rooted beliefs around being deserving, around how much you can handle in your life, whether you are that kind of person who makes 100,000 in a weekend. And when that shows up in my work with someone like this, I'll say this is a beautiful thing that's happening, because your actions show that you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, all acts. So I teach mindset. The cornerstone of everything that I do is mindset, because if you understand the way the conscious and subconscious works, only 5% of your actions come from your conscious mind. 95% come from your subconscious beliefs, self-image, fears, rules, etc. We are here on the Rule Breaker
The Rule Breaker,
podcast.
yes.
So your subconscious beliefs are very important as it relates to the growth of your business, to the growth of your impact, and to the growth of how much you pay yourself and how much money you attract. So when something like that, imposter syndrome, a fear, starts creating what I call a chaotic vibration in your business. A chaotic vibration is, if you're watching this, is yes, with one hand, yes, please, I would like some
And then
more.
the other one is a no.
And the other one is saying, no,
Yes.
I don't
I
want
had somebody
it. I
say
don't
to me,
deserve
what
it.
did I get myself into?
Yeah,
When they
what did
had
I
that
get myself
success,
into?
So
and
what
it does is it points to a belief system, and a belief is just a thought you keep thinking, right? A neural pathway, a self-image that says, I am not worthy or deserving of this. This is not me. Those results are not me. And where people will say, imposter syndrome, I got to stop going in this direction, I say the opposite. Keep going. This is a great sign, because we can change your beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
We can change your self-image. We can neutralize your fears. So when we can create new neural pathways in the brain very, very quickly, usually with just one session. So when you write down all of this is a fluke, I don't deserve it, I'm anxious, I can't do it again, we write these down and we go see a practitioner, whether it's EFT, NLP, body code, hypnosis. There are so many modalities out there that can switch a belief into something positive within just a few hours or a few days. The doubt, the chaotic vibration, the chasm between your current results and your beliefs gets changed. And then the old paradigm, I don't deserve this, I can't make that kind of money, is now in alignment with the new paradigm. Hey, I want this to be a regular occurrence. I want to make 100,000 a weekend. I want to make $83,333.33 a month. That gets you to 7 figures a year, $1 million a year. And when we can take the imposter syndrome and see it as oh, I'm close. Let's go. All I have to do is just align my mindset with my stated goals. Then I can take the right action. It's actually a very good sign
It
to have
is.
imposter syndrome.
It absolutely is. And I think it's important to recognize when you're doing that. I have a program, and the pillars of the program spells the word sales, and the first
Mm,
S stands for switch your mindset. And it's
yeah.
all about mindset. So I am
Yeah.
so happy that you also work in that same area because I think it's so important. So I love that you pointed that out.
Yeah. We actually have a mindset first methodology. And it seems like you do too, since it's the S in your sales acronym. What I realized very, very, very long ago when I was working just like onesies, twosies clients is I could give somebody my entire client attraction system and she would run to the races and put it in place and, get new clients. Take somebody who has the same intelligence, the same education, and all that, give her the same methodology, and she would overthink it and
Mm,
just hem and haw and not really put it into place. But the content worked. I'm sure you experience the same. There are some people who have a more fertile mindset and apply very quickly everything you give them. And then there are some that have these internal struggles
they hold
that
themselves back.
prevent them from fully putting into place. So you also mentioned procrastination. Procrastination, in part, is where they say that they want to, whatever, get to 50K a month or something like that. But internally, the belief systems aren't there. So it's alarm, alarm.
Right?
This isn't what we want. This isn't what we expect. This isn't what we believe. We don't believe that we can make
It's
50K
a
a month.
form of
So we're going
imposter
to,
syndrome.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So we're going to procrastinate on the thing that we know would get us to 50K a month, for example. So mindset first.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, one of the other things that I saw that you also talk about is scaling your business, and you have
Yeah.
8 steps to
Yes.
scale your business. Can
Yes.
you just give us shed a little bit of light on that? Because I think
Yes.
everyone, whether you're starting out or you're been in business for a while, and we're all looking for a way to get to the next step, to up level.
Yes. So, just a little bit of context about who I am and why I've written a program and a book. So, all of these 8 steps are covered in the book, The Leveraged Business. So, I'll cover them briefly, but I invite you to take a deep dive and get the book. It's on my website, it's free. I know we'll talk about it later. Just some context about who I am. I am someone who has always, in every part of my life, I'm looking for what is the most elegant, easy way to do something that then creates really big results. So I'm a cook. I'm in the process of writing a cookbook. I get that it doesn't
Oh
make
my
sense.
gosh, how
I'm a business
fun.
coach.
I would
Yeah.
love to do that too. I
Yeah.
knew that I was going to have a lot of fun when
And the
when we
way that
spoke.
I cook in the kitchen is I'm always cooking in 3 ingredients. I wrote a Whole Foods macrobiotic cookbook when I was 27, and it was 3 ingredients or less back then too. And here's why I'm bringing this up. In every area of my life, I'm looking at what's the least amount of work and effort that I can put into something like a dish, right? 3 ingredients, almost no time, and get the most enjoyment, best taste, best results, etc. And I naturally think this way in every aspect of my life, with my kids, with dinner, with the laundry, with everything. So this is very personal to me in the sense of most people work too hard to scale their business. And for context, and this is not bragging, and I'm not trying to be special, I have been using this methodology in my own business, Boldheart. I've been generating collectively close to $50 million of my own in my business. So this isn't something I read in a book. This isn't something that I'm swiping on ChatGPT. It took me 8 years to write that book. It is everything that I have in it. And it's that whole idea is, I hope you all write this down as you're listening. If you want to get to a bigger level, you actually have to do less.
Mm,
And it's called Do Less Better. So the premise is that what got you here, let's say you're at 6 figures, what got you to 6 figures will never get you to 7 figures. You actually have to work less. And the whole premise of the leverage business methodology is to do 20% of what you're doing now so that you can get 80% more results. So let's get into the granular piece. The first part of the leveraged business methodology is about leveraging your team.
Mhm.
Leveraging your team means that you look to create a team that's in their unique brilliance. And I'll explain what that means. I never talk to anybody, let's say a prospective team member or a client, unless I know how they're wired. I want to know, I give them 2 or 3 assessments and I want to know specifically how they're wired. And most people are doing things that they shouldn't be doing because they're not qualified to do them. When we look at how somebody is wired, we know what actions they need to be taking in their business. There's another piece of leveraging a team is understanding that there is no such thing as a self-made millionaire. There are only certain things you should be doing in your business and everything else should be delegated. So when you hire the right people that you trust, using certain assessments, using certain hiring procedures, you start surrounding yourself, even if you don't have, you may be listening to this and say, oh, I don't have a lot of money to hire expensive people, full-time people. I don't have full-time people. I have a handful of virtual, how do you say that?
Virtual
Virtual,
assistants, virtual, yes,
fractional, yeah,
mhm, or
fractional
fractional.
people. And a whole team, everybody in their unique brilliance working
Mhm.
towards a common goal. So when you leverage your team, you're only working on what we call EGAs, exponential growth activities, and all other things are delegated to other people. So when you have the right hiring process, you get people that you trust and you start delegating to them, which immediately allows you to get so much time back. The second way to leverage your business is to leverage your systems. Business that is solely built on you cannot be scaled because it cannot be consistent. Personalities are not scalable. Consistency, processes, and systems are scalable. So and again, we talk about this at length in each chapter, but just to give you a taste of it, everything that happens more than once in your business should have a process attached to it, a process, a procedure that is documented and available for all on your team, even if all on your team means you and a part-time virtual assistant. When you have taken everything that's in your head and dumped it in some sort of process, the team that you've hired now can run the systems, which that again gets you out of putting out fires, out of whack-a-mole mode. And
Right.
then you get back this time and you can then focus more time on money generating activities and exponential growth activities. So that's leverage your systems. There's a lot more to it, but I know that I've got another 6 of the steps
No,
to
as the
cover.
cliff notes of it. So no, I
It's the cliff
appreciate that.
notes.
Yes.
So now that you have leveraged your team, you've surrounded with people who can help you take things off your plate and allow you to go focus on making more money in the short term and exponential growth activities on the long term. And the team is following the system, which means that you can trust them. You trust them because you hired them properly with assessments. You now trust them to follow the systems. So much more can happen without things falling through the cracks. You then again get your time back. So the third element of this methodology is to leverage your time. And I don't mean time management. What I mean is time is your biggest commodity. It's your
Mhm.
most valuable commodity. It's the only thing you can't generate. The only way to generate more time is to leverage your time. And what that means in my approach is looking at the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule.
Mhm.
And if you understand the concept of the 80-20 rule, you understand that 80% of the things you are doing in your business are only creating 20% of the revenue and
Mhm.
the growth. So to break it down even further, think about, let's round it out. If you spend a 10-hour day at your desk, only 8 hours are not creating any results. Only 2 hours are creating results. Flip that. 2 of those hours, or 20% of the way that you use your time, is creating 80% of the results. So if you just look at that, or 2 hours out of your day are creating almost all of the results. When we look at leveraging our time, we look at taking back your time and putting a pause button, or eliminate, delegate, or automate that 80% that is not really creating results, and then taking the 20% that is creating 80% of the results and growing that to 40%, 60%. So not only with the first two activators, leverage your team and leverage your systems, do you get back all these hours, but in the leverage your time, you're flipping things around, delegating, automating, or eliminating the way that you waste your time. And I'll just say this, because I've worked with tens of thousands of women, I understand what it's, and I am one. I understand that we women are raised to be people pleasers and to put the needs and obligations and requests of others before our own. So I know men too, and I speak to guys who are listening, and I hope you can take this as well. But part of leveraging your time is learning how to elegantly say no.
Mm-hmm. Have a boundary.
Yeah, because when we realize we have processes in the leverage your time activator, and I mention it in the book, there are some women, I just taught this last month, there are some women that give away as many as 1,500 hours a year.
Wow.
To people, and you know, they're smart. They're like you and me, right? But they have been raised and reared to be that people pleaser, to think that you're not a nice girl. The opposite, you're a bad girl if you say no. So growing their business gets put on the back burner because they're spending so much time personally and professionally taking care of the needs and obligations of other people. You would not believe, Kathy, how rampant this is. And this is actually an activator, or one of the principles, where women actually get tears in their eyes because they did not realize how much of their time they give away. And I'll say this, how you use your time shows how you value yourself. It is a direct correlation to your self-worth.
Absolutely.
So when you can take back your time and elegantly set boundaries, then you can use that time to focus on those 20%, because you now have removed most of the 80% that didn't create results, and you can grow your business. So just in those three alone, we scale your business very quickly. Do you want me to cover some more of the activators?
I would say if you can just grab the ones that you feel are, I mean, obviously the ones that we talked about, as leveraging your time is huge.
I'll cover one more.
Okay.
Because the first four are the ones that we work on the first year, and they are the foundation to everything. So I will say that when you leverage your team, who then leverages the systems, and then you can leverage your time, one of the biggest game changers and breakthroughs is when you leverage your business model. And most of us, when we decided to open up our own business, we're taught to do business hours for dollars. So hourly rate, or you show up, you do the work, and you get paid for that. When you leverage your business model, you're going from one to one to many mentality. You're leveraging your business model and it really depends on a few things. There are countless permutations on how you can work one to many, literally countless permutations. But one of the things that works really, really is to leverage your intellectual property. What got you to 6 figures or multiple 5 figures is not just based on your intuition. Even if you think it's based on your intuition, you can document your intuition. This is what I ended up doing, and a lot of the people that I've guided are doing. So when you leverage your process, you leverage your methodology by writing it down, you can then have team associates teach for you. You can automate it, you can package it, you can sell it service. What is it? Some SaaS? I can't remember in this moment.
Yes.
Yeah. You can create licensing, you can create your business so you can sell it for millions. There are literally countless permutations of how you can leverage your business. when you do these 4 things, and then I invite you, if it speaks to you, to read the book or go to my website to read about all the activators. They're also there. Then you can start approaching your business with a different mindset, which is, oh, to grow, I must do less, but better. And
Yes.
that's what gets you to multiple 6 and 7 figures with your evenings back, with your vacations back, with your weekends back, and your freedom.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do less, but do better. I love that. And we're definitely going to have in our show notes your information so people can go ahead and get your book. And if I remember correctly, your book is free. You just have to pay for shipping, correct?
Yeah, for sure. It's everything I know, and you get to have it. Listen, I'm very transparent. If you like the book, maybe one day you'll tell somebody about it. Maybe you'll do something with me. And if not, I've just put hopefully good juju out
Good.
there in the
Absolutely. I've always
universe.
said what comes around goes around. So I
Always
think if you do
energetically.
good things will definitely come back to you.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
Fabienne, I have to ask you, so what makes, because I ask everybody this question,
Sure.
what makes you a rule breaker?
I mean, being an entrepreneur, you are a rule breaker.
I think
I'm a
so.
rebel. I'm a lion. I'm a Leo. I've learned that I grew up in Paris. I grew up in France, and there are lots of cultural rules
Mm,
here because I live here now. And I realized that I was put in a box again and again and again. And I am a natural rebel. So working in corporate, I felt that I couldn't be the fullest expression of who I am. In all of my relationships, I am like a walking embodiment of a rule breaker, but not in a bad way,
No,
in a
that's right. And that's
self-honoring
that's
way.
what this is all about. The
Yeah.
professional rule breaker is thinking outside the box, allowing your inner rebel to come
Yeah.
out to do some good and be
Yeah.
authentically you.
And I love that. I love my inner rebel. I see so many entrepreneurs walking through the motions of their business and doing business in a way that doesn't honor them. And therefore, it affects their life. And no wonder they're depressed, not making
Depressed, unhappy,
money. Yeah.
stressed.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
So,
absolutely. So I'm so thrilled to have you here. And for everyone, again, Fabienne's information and how to get her book will be in the show notes. And it's been a real delight having you. And for everybody that's out there listening, just think about some of the things that Fabienne said. Be deeply you. So be authentically you and do less, but do it better. I mean, that's a mic drop in itself.
I hope it was useful.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you so much. I'd love to have you back sometime because I think you are just fabulous. And I love that. There you go. Fabienne, you start with FAB, fabulous. So I'm so thrilled to have you here. I think we're like-minded, maybe soul sisters or something like that. I watched some video about black sheep that you had there, and that just so rang true with me about how so many of the people that you attract have thought that they're a black sheep, something different. Maybe they didn't fit in out
Yeah.
there. And the same thing happens with me. I've always felt that I've been a black sheep, and those are the people that I attract as well.
Yeah, that film, that 9-minute documentary is on the website. If you end up going on the website, you'll see a tab that says the film. And literally, I did not realize that I was walking around this earth feeling like a black sheep my whole life, but I wasn't the only one. And many people say they watch that and cry because it resonates with
Yeah,
them.
absolutely. It brought a tear to my eye when I saw that because I was, yep. And there is I think we have respective of each other, our tribe of black sheep that we attract.
Proud to be a
Bound
black
to
sheep.
be. And I love being a black sheep.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Now
Now,
that
not
I get how
before,
wonderful we are.
but now I definitely love that. So thank you so much for being here. And again, for everybody that's out there listening, continue being authentically you, be fierce, and of course, break some rules.